entire VideoTours library is available for purchase by corporations, educators, and individuals.
An outpost of information. A library of the world's diversity. Studio, classroom, laboratory, research center, and archive of scientific treasures. This is the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. Within its 40 exhibition halls, the wonder and variety of our world. But this is more than a showplace. In a labyrinth of 22 interconnected buildings, we can glimpse the story behind the scenes. Some 200 scientists and research associates representing numerous disciplines. Scores of artists, craftspeople, and support staff. A team at work, investigating, creating, and educating. How can fish live in the desert? What is Mars made of? What does a fossil tell us about continental drift? What did our earliest ancestors look like? And what sort of world will our descendants live in? Their work reaches the public through scientific and special publications, discovery tours, workshops, films, lectures, exhibits, and educational programs.
We'd like all our visitors to leave here with a set of experiences. We want them to be inspired by what they've seen. We want them to learn something new about the natural world. We want them to get a sense of how science works. But we also want them to bring their sense of science and their pleasure with the natural world and their knowledge of it back out of the museum with them. We want them, if they see a bird in their backyard, to have a notion that this may be indeed related to dinosaurs, to enlarge their whole experience about the world they see around them.
Tyrannosaurus rex, Triceratops, Pachycephalosaurus, Apatosaurus, Stegosaurus.
The American Museum of Natural History owns the most diverse collection of dinosaur and other vertebrate fossils in existence. The paintings and fossil skeletons on view are a sampling of the museum's ongoing work. Over a century, scientists have sought to find, preserve, catalog, and study what now amounts to more than 1,000 tons of fossils. Over millions of years, organic decay, water seepage, and mineral saturation transformed the buried remains of prehistoric plants and animals to fossil. It's through this fossil record that paleontologists investigate the world of the distant past and glimpse the future. Fossil discoveries, exciting in themselves, also connect to broad global issues. For instance, scientists have found that certain organisms eons ago contributed to the oxygen we breathe today. As organisms, we too must affect the Earth's atmosphere, today and far into tomorrow.
We found an interesting specimen a couple of years ago in the high Andes of Chile, and that specimen is a fossil skull of a small plant-eating mammal. Here you can see the jaw and the teeth, and this skull is encased in a hard piece of volcanic rock. Well, we collected this skull from a site at about 11,000 feet, and up until this time, virtually nothing was known about this whole region of South America. Why? Well, partly because it's so hard to get up to this site. It was a horrendous climb up to the top. The discovery is important because it tells us not only about what's happening or what happened in the history of the animal life on the continent, but it ties in information about the rise of the Andes, about continental drift, about moving continents. It's really fantastic when you get these kinds of fossil information that brings all those different areas into focus on a single question.
What kinds of people dedicate their lives to investigating the distant past in this way? Barnum Brown was a good example. As a boy, he'd walk through a freshly plowed Kansas cornfield and pick up shell fossils, one after another. When he first came to the museum in 1897, the museum possessed not a single dinosaur. By 1963, when he died, the collection had earned recognition as the largest and best collection in the world, built in great part upon his work. It was Barnum Brown who discovered not one, but two Tyrannosaurus rex skeletons, as well as parts of the giant Barosaurus. One of the museum's most brilliant and colorful researchers was Roy Chapman Andrews. In 1923, he led a museum expedition to outer Mongolia to find the birthplace of primitive man. Instead, he discovered for the first time fossils of dinosaur eggs. Adventure and danger, that was Andrews' life. Many believe he's the model for the movie screen's Indiana Jones. Not all the past's secrets are buried beneath the earth. Some plunge down from the heavens. Anegito. One of the names given this visitor from outer space is Anegito, named after the daughter of Robert Peary, the famous Arctic explorer. In 1894, Peary found Anegito mostly buried in the tundra on an island off Greenland, near Cape York on the Arctic Ocean. Recognizing its scientific value, he was determined to move the 34-ton mountain of solid iron-nickel alloy back to New York. It took 4 years and 3 more expeditions, battling brutal weather, hostile terrain, and lack of funds, before the Iron Mountain was finally loaded on the deck of Peary's ship. Despite a long journey with a ship's compass which pointed only at the meteorite, Anegito arrived in New York City. It would take another 10 years before a team of 28 horses hauled the largest meteorite in captivity to the museum. Its tremendous weight is now supported by 6 steel columns which extend down to bedrock. Anegito resides with other extraterrestrial visitors in the Arthur Ross Hall of Meteorites.
Why study meteorites? That's a good question. For at least 200 years now, we've known that things come out of the sky. We collected them because they were there, and what were we supposed to do with them? And to make a long story short, we now know that they're extremely valuable specimens. In fact, they're the only physical record we have of the beginnings of the Earth, the beginnings of the solar system, the very time in which the sun formed 4.5 billion years ago, and that's a pretty precise number. And we know that from this material. Not only that, the very material of which these meteorites are made came into the package of material that we call the Earth. And then the Earth melted with a metallic core, just like this piece of iron, nickel here, a silicate mantle, a thin crust. And we live on top of that crust. We eat, we live, we die, and our bodies are built of this meteoritic material. This is the very stuff. We are made of meteoritic material, which is ultimately made of stars.
Research of this sample of the Allende meteorite reveals that it contains pieces in it of a supernova, a star bursting and dying that was probably the triggering mechanism for starting the solar system and eventually forming the planets. Dr. Prins and his colleagues are studying meteorites which were collected in Antarctica. They are actual pieces of the Moon and Mars, and they offer clues about the history, interior, and atmosphere of our neighbors in space. Here on the Earth, and deep within it, the elements combine in fascinating shapes and colors as mineral crystals. Close to the Hall of Meteorites is a treasure trove of such nature-made beauty. The Harry Frank Guggenheim Hall, containing a collection of 2,000 minerals. Essentially the basic substance of the Earth, minerals help us understand how matter is organized. We use them in building, in industry, and technology. Studying minerals can take scientists far into the field on grueling expeditions. But these investigations can lead to exciting discoveries that no one has ever found out before.
The fun aspect of the job is I'm intrinsically interested in this material, and the excitement is finding out something new. It's essentially what science is about, is trying to make discoveries. Now, in some cases it will be just making a simple observation. In some cases it will be having collected a great quantity of information and finally seeing how it all relates. My main research is focusing on a variety of jade that comes from Guatemala. I've been going to Guatemala since 1984, trying to find the rocks, figure out how they occur, why they occur. And I've also related it to the archaeological problem, which is where does the New World jade come from? There's a lot of jade all over Central America, and the archaeologists believe it comes from all over the place, but my interpretation, they all come from Guatemala. The archaeologists don't like this, but the geology is basically saying there ain't no other place, guys. And so that's kind of fun to have this discussion between the different areas in science. All the work that we do relates to how the Earth works and how materials are distributed in the solid Earth. And the little increments of knowledge that we get, the progress I make in understanding about jade or another mineral deposits helps us fill in the picture. And the picture allows us to get at the resources that we need as a society to survive in the future.
Some minerals are so rare and beautiful that they become objects of personal adornment. Adjacent to the Guggenheim Hall is the J.P. Morgan Hall, one of the foremost gem collections in the world. It was the first to win a grand prize at an international exposition and has maintained its reputation ever since. Among the collection of 1,500 gems is one of the world's most famous, the Star of India. Weighing 563 carats, it is the largest blue star sapphire in the museum world. The sea holds its own wonders, and the greatest, in size at least, are the whales. Our planet's largest animals are also among the most endangered. While its size dwarfs the dinosaurs, its disappearance, unlike theirs, won't be a mystery, because it's been hunted to the brink of extinction. The museum's 94-foot model of a blue whale the largest animal on Earth, welcomes visitors to the Hall of Ocean Life. 100 years of museum expeditions have produced this simulated trip beneath the oceans. In the 1920s, Ralph Waldo Miner ventured 165 feet under the waters of the South Atlantic near Andros Island in the Bahamas. He took a camera, oil paints, and canvas. His mission? To capture and accurately recreate a tropical coral reef. Thanks to the efforts of Dr. Miner and his colleagues' ongoing work, visitors can experience the world of the oceans. Its beauties and its dangers. The museum's ichthyologists are the explorers of the underwater world.
Probably everybody has a fantasy close to making discoveries, and I say that because this is the lead-in to shows like Star Trek, where Captain Kirk says at the beginning that their mission is to discover new worlds, to find new forms of life, to boldly go where no one has gone before. And I see this as being exactly what my job is to expand the boundaries of human knowledge, in my case, knowledge about fishes, by going to places where some aspect of knowledge seems to be missing. And for me then to find that bit of knowledge and to fill in what we know about evolution of life on Earth.
Seeking new forms of life has taken Dr. Smith to deserts where he's found fish that live in water of 113 degrees Fahrenheit, and to a lake on the island of Hispaniola where some fish tolerate water so thick with salt that it's virtually a syrup. He and other museum scientists are detectives, seeking clues to evolution and extinction. Natural history scientists believe that the rate of species lost on Earth is approaching nearly 1,000 times the normal background rate of extinction.
If the loss of species continues at this level, we expect to lose 1/4 of the species on Earth within our lifetimes. It's clear that we can afford to lose some species. And we don't know which ones, we don't know how many of them we can afford to lose. But at some point, this complex system is going to fall apart. And that's what I'm worried about. In order to resolve this crisis and loss of biodiversity, perhaps the first step we have to take is the most difficult of all, and that's to try simply to name and identify the variants of life that exist. That's the most fundamental charge of this museum.
Over a century ago, Carl Akeley saw that with advancing civilization, expanding farms, big game hunting, Africa's natural habitat was disappearing. Akeley decided to recreate the African experience before it vanished completely. Both sculptor and taxidermist, he developed a revolutionary new way of preserving specimens. His system of clay sculpture, plaster molds, and mounting the animal's skin over the cast paper mache mannequin set a standard for realistic museum display that remains unsurpassed. In 1926, while he and his wife were doing field research, Carl Akeley died of a jungle fever. He was buried not far from the spot recreated in his gorilla diorama. But thanks to the courage and persistence of Mary L. Jobe Akeley, a well-known explorer in her own right, Carl Akeley's life's work was completed. The Akeley Hall of African Mammals. To create these habitat groups, museum staff artists would go to the actual site and with painstaking detail, photograph, paint, and collect samples of soil, rocks, and vegetation. Back in the museum, they used Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel techniques, painting habitat backgrounds on double curved surfaces. They'd blend background and foreground to create a feeling of depth and distance. Years ago, Steve Quinn came to the museum to learn the techniques of the masters who originally worked on these halls before these unique skills were lost. Taxidermy, background painting, making artificial plants, and collecting material, a blend of art and science found only in museums.
As an artist, I'd appreciate the visitors viewing the exhibits as works of art. However, I would not want that to be the overall effect of the exhibits. Certainly the zoology halls should create an awareness and appreciation for the natural environment and stimulate people to get involved in the preservation of endangered environments. Today, we no longer are building exhibits of this type, and we're going to great lengths to preserve these exhibits, just as scientists in the field are going to great lengths to preserve the wild animals in their habitat groups. And in many cases, people who live in inner cities, this may be their only glimpse of some of these endangered animals and distant habitats in Africa, South America, or Asia.
The American Museum of Natural History explores and celebrates human diversity as well, and its exhibits and ongoing research reflect a revolution in anthropology that began here at the end of the 19th century. In Victorian times, it was believed that all primitive peoples were at the bottom of an evolutionary ladder that led up to white Western European civilizations. Franz Boas joined the museum in 1895 as assistant curator. With the help of his graduate students and scientists like Margaret Mead, Boas and his colleagues changed anthropology's view to the principle that we're all equals who simply live in different cultures. Between 1897 and 1901, the American Museum of Natural History sponsored the most ambitious anthropological research project of its time, the famous Jessup North Pacific Expedition. It set out to answer a long-standing ethnological question. Did Native American culture develop independently, or did these peoples migrate from Asia across Siberia? Two teams of scientists set out. One journeyed from village to village across the unexplored wastes of Siberia. The other traveled up from Washington State to British Columbia. Along the way, they recorded and compared native languages, physical characteristics, myths, and art. After decades of studying this material, anthropologists today generally agree that Native Americans did migrate across Asia. The sculptor Sigrid Neandros studied hundreds of the life masks Boas and his associates made during the Jessup expedition. The result? The authentic lifelike figures in this 65-foot canoe purchased from the Haida Indians in 1883. This tiny canoe, on the other hand, offers insight into the spiritual life of another tribe. The Moachat Indians of Vancouver Island's west coast used it in a whaling ceremony. The moving spirit figures bring the chief the magic he needs for a successful voyage.
The role of anthropology at a museum such as the American Museum of Natural History is to educate the public in cultural diversity, to celebrate the different kinds of art, the different kinds of social structure, the different life ways of people around the globe. And the ultimate goal of this kind of education is to have our public become very tolerant of the differences between the different races and the different people of this globe. What I think most important thing to know about anthropological research at this museum is that it's alive. We have anthropologists going to the four corners of the globe studying cultures that are living today. And it's our hope that as we progress towards the 21st century, that the cultures that we're studying, that our anthropologists are studying, and that we would like to do displays of, that the people from those cultures join us in partnerships as we design and develop exhibitions about those cultures. So it's a very much the representation not of dead, extinct societies, but living, vital cultures.
The artifacts and exhibits serve to show a wide audience what scientists discover through fieldwork and research. In the exhibition department, curators, scientists, and artists join forces to make the complex and technical understandable to all, to bring scholarship vividly to life.
The actual evidence that we have for human evolution consists of bones and teeth and specimens like this one here. But the story of human evolution is a very dramatic one, and it's a story of individuals and populations surviving in fluctuating environments. It's very exciting, and we want to put in our latest diorama efforts some of this drama and some of this personality into our presentation. We want to give people something they can relate to more readily than just to skulls and bones. So we have prepared a number of reconstructions, for example, this one here on my left, of a Neanderthal, based on this skull and produced by laying on the soft tissues as we believe they were distributed, and sculpting a face that we hope reflects the individuality of the individual, as well as giving a good idea of what the Neanderthals looked like.
Our ancestors looked past their caves and hills and wondered what lay beyond their own lives. Today, we look out to the edge of the universe.
Here at the Hayden Planetarium, we try to complement really what the Museum of Natural History does as a whole. Their exhibits and programs primarily concentrate on the Earth and its life forms and its evolution. We take people into outer space. We give people the opportunity to look up beyond this little blue planet that we call home, to ponder the myriad of other incredible worlds out in space. We can fly them down the canyon of Mars that would stretch from New York to California. We can show them volcanoes on a moon of Jupiter that are as large as all of Washington, Oregon, and southern British Columbia put together. We can utilize what's going on the evening news and newspaper headlines as the new space shots return fantastic images from across the solar system and across the galaxy. And we at the same time are challenged, because of the rapid developments in astronomy and space science, to keep our shows current, to explain in simple language with the best visualization we possibly can what's going on the frontiers of astronomy and space science today.
Behind the planetarium's stunning images are astronomers, artists, writers, composers, producers, computer programmers, and technicians.
We hope that people, upon visiting us, will be moved emotionally in some way by the experience here in the Sky Theater. We hope certainly that they will learn some new facts about the universe as a result of the visit, but that they looked up, maybe for the first time in their lives, and come to grips with how big the universe is, how grand it is, how much of an achievement it has been to the human mind and the human spirit to, while being trapped on Earth, so to speak, with our minds be able to reach out and touch the most distant star.
While visitors admire an ancient calendar, an anthropologist studies Korean marriage customs. And Tibetan monks complete a sand painting that represents the wholeness of the earth. Excavating off the coast of Georgia, archaeologists seek America's lost Hispanic heritage in a 300-year-old Spanish mission. In Outer Mongolia, a joint expedition of museum paleontologists and their Mongolian colleagues uncovered a treasure trove of fossils, including a new species of poisonous lizard that lived 80 million years ago. Museum staff prepares Global Warming, a traveling exhibit that dramatizes the greenhouse effect and ozone depletion. At the invitation of the Venezuelan government, ichthyologists, herpetologists, entomologists, and ornithologists traveled to an unexplored area of the rainforest to research new species. This is the American Museum of Natural History at work. Sharing with millions the joys of discovery that deepen our appreciation of this small blue planet, our home.
The entire VideoTours library is available for purchase by corporations, educators, and individuals.